Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on
We welcome you to hour number 2 live right here on the first day of this new week. It is a Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. It is draft week officially around the National Football League. 3 days out from night number 1, round number 1 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock. That is pretty much solidified. The rest of the draft and the quarterback questions we will ask here in this second hour. As we continue to go through the NBA playoffs, our coach, J.Y. James Young, will be here with this scouting report. A doubleheader of Game 2s on this Monday night in 2 very competitive spots where we are excited for game number 2 tonight in DRS. Of course, a weekend around Major League Baseball with you, one of the hosts of Pro Baseball Today. We recap everything we saw this weekend in the bigs to start this second hour.
It's good. Love Major League Baseball. Weather getting warmer here. A lot of runs being scored across the board. You take a look at the NBA. We're no longer in preview mode of a playoff series that's going to begin in 2 weeks. We actually have game-to-game analysis. And I love the first round because you got a lot of games to recap and a lot of games to preview for those nights' action. So we do enjoy round number 1. Hopefully it's more competitive than teams just running away, winning in 4 and 5 games. We like the 6-game series. We like the 7-game series. We like the animosity to build up and the anger between both of these teams from playing each other on a night-to-night basis that, like in the National Hockey League, you get. They're angry. They hate each other from game number 1, and you probably got to see them another 5 or 6 games here at this point. So we're enjoying the time that we have now. The NBA, just ramp up for us. And by the way, what I mean ramp up is Houston, ramp up. How about that?
Yeah. Donnie wants the regular season to mean something because if it does not, he's going to hate it even more than he already does. All right, let's go around Major League Baseball. Yeah, you would. Let's go around MLB from the weekend that was. DOS, the San Diego Padres, best team in the bigs, 16-6 now to begin their season. And one of the reasons why, because of how great they have been at home. 12 of their first 13 in Petco Park. A victory, but on the road, some questions. They had dropped the opening 2 games of the weekend set against the Astros last night in Houston for the series finale on Sunday Night Baseball, needing a win to avoid the sweep. Courtesy of Fernando Tatis Jr., they do get that. A solo shot in the top of the 7th to give the Padres the lead and the eventual win. So a big victory for San Diego to avoid a sweep, but DRS, a very scary moment early on in that game. Luis Arias trying to beat out a bunt, racing down the first base line, collides with Mauricio Dubon of Houston, covering that first base bag. Scary moment. Arias down on the turf for a while, had to be stretchered off, was taken to a hospital for evaluation, but all was good. He returned to the ballpark to rejoin his San Diego team. Good news for the Padres in a very scary incident. Good news for San Diego as well, avoiding a sweep last night in Houston.
Yeah, there you go. You don't want to see Luis Ariz down for a certain amount of time. Who knows? I don't know if he was designated or had a concussion or not, which probably would send him to the IL. Maybe a day or two off there to clear the cobwebs. He should be just fine. But that's a good win here. And also understand this. That was two key pitchers on the mound last night that were struggling to start their seasons. Both of them had good games. Dylan Cease, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, quality start there. Framber Valdez, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs to lower his ERA to 4.50. But how about Cease with that start? Lowers his ERA band to 6 on the season. So came up big, 2-2 game. The better bullpen won out, and that was the Padres. And the better superstar won out last night. That was Fernando Tatis delivering there with that solo home run. Nice victory. I thought the Houston Astros were the right side yesterday. That minus 105, minus 110 favorite, depending on where you're shopping at by the time you hit game time. But the Padres needed that victory and got it. And Dylan Cease, maybe he can build off of that start here and continue to lower that ERA down, which is what they expect.
4-5 on the road for San Diego, 12-1 at home. So the Padres 16-6, best marks in MLB. The Yankees had a pretty good weekend in their spring training home, except for a weird game yesterday, DRS. Max Fried on the bump. He has been sensational this year in pinstripes in his debut in New York, but had his no-hitter taken away from him in the 8th inning on a controversial call from a couple of innings prior, where an error was changed in the actual box score to a hit. So he lost his no-hitter there, despite the Yankees winning 4-0. And despite winning 4-0 against Tampa inside George Steinbrenner Field, Aaron Boone got ejected in the 8th after Aaron Judge struck out because one of those strikes was probably an incorrectly called foul ball. Aaron Judge hit what appeared to be a home run on replay review, but they kept it a foul ball. Aaron Judge saying after the game, it's tough when you're not playing in Major League Baseball ballparks, which is a funny thing given that's the spring training home of the Yankees.
Exactly. Like absolutely slaying the Tampa Bay Rays and also getting a ricochet shot at your own ownership group for having that as your spring training ball club, which is a shame because yesterday on the show, one of my home run picks was Aaron Judge. That would have been nice to see if that home run actually stayed fair. But how about this, though? 3 home runs by the Yankees yesterday. And hey, welcome to the Major League Baseball season yesterday. A 2 RBI, 1 home run effort for Cody Bellinger to improve his batting average to 179. But by the way, when I look at that Yankees lineup, they're trying to work things through. They're 14-8. They're just fine on the season. Looks like they're going to have a good year. Like Jazz Chisholm, 157 on the year as a batting average, and they continue to put him right smack dab in the middle of that lineup. We'll see how long that lasts. But at least Bellinger actually woke up yesterday and goes, hey, I'm not the worst hitter in the starting lineup now.
You know why Cody Bellinger hit a long ball yesterday, don't you? What holidays were we celebrating yesterday?
Easter.
And?
I don't know. What else?
It was,
what holiday is that?
I think the calendar date said April 20th, 2025. 420. I believe Belly loves 420. He has hit a home run on each of the last 3 April 20th.
Wow.
By the way, Max Fried, 4-0 with a 1.42 ERA this year. Did allow 2 hits, I guess, in 7 2/3 of shutout baseball. The New York Yankees off to a really good start, DRS, taking 3 of 4 this weekend in the extended weekend set against the Rays. They're 14-8. The other New York team, also an extended weekend set, but at home at City. And the Mets sweep the Cardinals, taking all 4 against the Redbirds. New York now 15-7. The Mets off to a good start. The Yankees off to a good start. Both teams in the top spot in their respective divisions.
Yeah, getting good hitting, getting good pitching here, and also, winning a good game yesterday going up against a quality pitcher in Sonny Gray. Now, Sonny Gray did have a quality start, 6 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. But Holmes, who's done very well last year and certainly again this year. You take a look at 6 innings pitched, only 1 earned run yesterday with 6 Ks, lowering his ERA to 3.16. But we know the Mets are only going to go as far as the top of that lineup. Maybe you're seeing signs of life for Francisco Lindor now with Juan Soto behind him and then Pete Alonso. If he gets going, and yesterday hit another home run, 3 for 5 at the plate, scoring 3 runs, that's one of the best 1-2-3 punches in Major League Baseball if they're right. And now Lindor, 271. Can he get back to close to 300? That would be impressive here, and that would be a great starting point for the New York Mets.
DRS, he entered this weekend, did Frankie, with a 239 batting average. He had a couple of 3-hit games against the Cards. That batting average up to 271. Of course, the home run yesterday to start things off in the home half of the first, the home run to end things on Friday night.
Yep.
His first walk-off as a Met. It was pretty sensational theater at Citi Field. You talked about the weather getting warmer this weekend. We saw that in Baltimore, and we saw the offense pick up, but not really for the O's. The Reds take the weekend set, winning 2 of 3 against the Orioles, including hammering Baltimore yesterday, 24-2. The most runs the Reds have scored in a single baseball game this millennium since 1999.
Absolutely incredible yesterday. Again, combined 49 statistics, 24 runs, 25 hits. It's incredible. And they just had an absolute barrage early on where you're just saying, we're waiting for the Orioles to wake up, and they never did. Like, in a 24-2 game, the other team's not even using their best relievers, and you still could only muster 2 runs yesterday. Say it ain't so, man. You take, by the way, what was 15 of 25 with runners in scoring position? That's a dream, man. Whew.
My Cincinnati Reds, now 11-11. Let's get to 80, Cincy. It's draft week in the NFL. Up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Just 3 days away from the opening night and the opening round of the 2025 NFL Draft. We get you set with all the information you need to know entering Green Bay, Wisconsin in round number 1 on a Thursday night. DRS, there hasn't been a ton of draft conversation, or at least some of that buzz in hoopla. It's a draft cycle and a process known for its smokescreens, known for its speculation. But really, that's a lot of quarterback chatter. And the only quarterback chatter we really have to figure out is where does Shedeur Sanders go and how many signal callers are we going to see in round number 1 on Thursday? Because right now, when you look at the odds, with no movement in the draft order, all 32 NFL clubs still hold on to their original first-round pick. The odds board also kind of making it seem like this is going to be only a matter of fact. Here are the top 10 in terms of the opening round in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Titans 1, Browns 2, Giants 3, Patriots and Jaguars round out the top 5. Raiders, Jets, Panthers, Saints, and Bears end out that top 10. And again, DRS, one of the main stories is the lack of movement in the draft order. For the first time in the modern era of the NFL draft, 7 rounds dating back to 1994, or since we saw the NFL expand to 32 organizations back in 2002, reaching the league year, which started on Wednesday, March 12th, it is the first time the league year has begun, and then a month after it, that we see all 32 NFL clubs with their original first-round pick still in their possession.
Yeah, you know what? I think the NFL absolutely loves this, to be honest. Now, granted, we love the trading and the mixing, matching, and teams training up. But if you are looking from a ratings perspective, what's the best night one rating you can get? All 32 teams have a pick, and all 32 teams pick in the first round. So that team city is going to stay engaged no matter how long that happens. It's interesting, too, because you might think, like, even into the future, like the NFL saying you can't trade away a first-round draft pick because, number one, it's not good for us for ratings-wise, and number two, why don't you just keep that pick because you're probably going to blow it and spend it on somebody else. You shouldn't have done that. Now, granted, they're never going to institute that, but I think it's interesting that everybody has a pick, at least right now, leading up to the draft. We'll see how it plays out in that instance, or teams are going to make trades. Teams are going to trade out of the first round. Teams are going to trade back into the first round. That certainly will change, but it is interesting that nobody has given away that first-round draft pick in the years previous that will come back to bite them in this draft tonight. Thursday. Right. So everybody's live.
Yeah, and DRS, it's a great point, right? No picks that have been a part of a blockbuster deal 2, 3, 4 years ago. No trades that have happened at the end of the season for a team in desperate need of more than likely a quarterback to find their way up the board. Of course, who drafted first overall last year? The Chicago Bears. But it wasn't because they finished with the worst record in the National Football League. It was the trade the year prior for the Panthers to move up to number 1. We haven't seen that either in years previous or so far in this draft cycle since the end of the 2024 NFL season as we get ready for 2025. So no movement, DRS, in terms of the draft order. How about the draft odds? The only movement we have really seen, a couple of prospects have moved. Travis Hunter, now the minus money favorite to go second. It was Abdul Carter early on in this process, so they have flip-flopped. The main movement has been the solidifying of these hefty minus money favorites. Cam Ward, minus 20,000 to go first overall. Travis Hunter, now a minus 900 favorite to go second overall. Abdul Carter, minus 480 at third. Will Campbell, minus 470 at fourth. And even that fifth spot where Jacksonville selects Mason Graham is a minus 160 favorite. DRS, you look at the top 5, everybody in a minus money price. In 4 of the top 5, a $4 favorite or greater. Have we figured out exactly what the top 5 is going to look like by the time we get to Thursday evening?
It looks like it does make some sense. Now, again, it only takes one team that likes another team from a draft board that many teams don't have to sort of shake things up. But sometimes, there's the early online movements that we talk about. Like, okay, it moved $1 or $2 this week, but we still have 3 weeks to go. You're in the final week, which means leaks are coming out. And these organizations have had months and months and months to get ready for these picks coming up, which means that they're probably not changing all that much over the final 4 or 5 days. Like, if you're not sold on Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter going to Cleveland, what type of organization do you have, and what type of power struggle are you actually going to? So there's no surprise that Travis Hunter is minus 900, because probably the vibes out of Cleveland are like, yeah, we just signed Myles Garrett back. We have our defensive end. Abdul Carter is fantastic, but boy, if we can get a Swiss Army knife as good as Travis Hunter, who could be a generational player, we can't pass that up. So that's why he goes from the minus 200 to the minus 400, now the minus 900, just a few days left before the draft. Even though I still think Abdul Carter is the best overall player in the draft, it's just a matter of how that certain organization perceives him. And make no mistake about it, they're putting out feelers that Travis Hunter is going to be that number 2 pick. And also, the interesting part would be is if Cleveland does trade out, what do they do, and who would come up? Would they take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? I'm still holding out hope that there's a chance it's Abdul Carter, now a 5-to-1 price to be number 2 overall, but you can't doubt the odds sometimes. We do see upsets, but the fact that this is moving so significantly in the mention of Travis Hunter, that gives me a pause thinking that, you know what, he's probably is going to be the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, DRS, it does really seem like that. Again, these are not markets that come with a power rating or an algorithm. You are doing things based on what you are believing the NFL organizations are going to do, what the odds makers are hearing, those reports, just like all of us. But there hasn't been a ton of indication that Cleveland is even looking at anybody outside of Travis Hunter. The Giants, yes, have worked out Shedeur Sanders. They had that final private workout in Boulder on Thursday morning this past week, 1 week out from the NFL draft, but really no strong indication the Giants, after making the moves early this offseason for Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, are invested in a quarterback, at least for the top three, DRS. I think that's exactly what we see. Ward, Hunter, Carter in that order. Now, some new reports this morning, some NFL draft buzz, if you will, from ESPN's Adam Schefter, that the team drafting 5th overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars, with a rookie head coach in Liam Cohen, could be the wild card in the top 5, where they could look to trade out of that spot, and could a team hunting down a quarterback, looking to take matters into their own hands, make a drastic move up the odds board. We'll have that conversation up next, because if we do see a change in the top 5, it's probably going after Shedeur Sanders. That's next.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're talking about going into next year, your 4th coach in 4 years. And if you think about it, they were 2-0 NBA Finals, and literally the whole organization just fell off.
I don't really understand what the plan is, right? Like, okay, you fire Budenholzer. What is the plan? Who do you think you're bringing in? What do you think is going to change? We all know the sort of dire financial situation they find themselves in as far as money spent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The quarterback question for the 2025 NFL Draft in mainly night number 1. How many QBs do we see have their name called on Thursday night in Green Bay? DRS, a couple of changes to the draft list attendees that were made public on Friday afternoon, and most notably, Jackson Dart, who originally was listed as one of the 17 guys who had accepted an invite to attend the NFL Draft, is no longer coming to Green Bay based on those reports, and yet Dart is still a minus 700 favorite to be a first-round pick. Again, I believe there's only 2 quarterbacks worthy of a first-round grade or selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. The odds makers say there will be 3 going in the first round. Jalen Milroe still set to attend the NFL Draft in Green Bay later this week, a plus 130 price. DRS, how many quarterbacks go in round number 1?
We're getting at least 3. I do believe that. And again, it all matters in the late first rounds because the reason why it's a little bit overloaded is it's not just the premise that quarterbacks get overdrafted. They do, because if you don't have a good quarterback, you're always reaching for a quarterback. That's what happens. But the difference between we could have, let's just say, a couple second-round grades. Well, they get busted up the first-round grades automatically because you get the extra year where it's like, you know what, he might be a little bit more of a project. We could sit him on the bench here. We control his rights for longer. So why would I wait till pick 38 when I can just trade up to pick 31 or 32? I'll have to spend some capital but get an entire extra year of control over that quarterback to see if he truly can be our franchise guy. That's why we take a look at the guys and say, well, they're not really first-round grades. It doesn't matter. The extra year sort of bumps that up. If you had no restrictions and everybody, Ben, was slotted with a 5-year contract from round 1 to round 7, you wouldn't see those trade-ups into the first round. You would just wait to get them in the second round, lower pay slot, and be fine with that. But that's why I think we're going to have multiple quarterbacks outside just the top 2 we think are going. I do think there's going to be at least 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round, not because they deserve to be first round or have a first round grade on them per se, but the fact that you get the extra year of control, somebody's going to slide into one of those 30, 31, or 32 slots and grab a quarterback.
And there is always that bump for the quarterbacks, especially as the draft nears, because you can alter the shape of your franchise with the most important position in all of football. And Donnie, at the end of either the NFL or college football season, it felt pretty matter of fact we were going to have 2 quarterbacks go in the top 5, the top 10, maybe even 1 and 2. Yeah. Cam Ward, who's a minus 20,000 favorite to go first overall, only a matter of time to be made confirmed and official on Thursday night. But Shedeur Sanders, where exactly does he fall in the NFL draft? Could it be at number 3 overall with the Giants? Perhaps. It's a plus 450 price right now. Abdul Carter, the hefty minus money favorite. Could he go in the top 10? It's a minus 250 price on Sanders to do just that. The most likely landing spot for the team to draft Shedeur Sanders based on the odds remains the New Orleans Saints at a plus 160 price. But that price was as short as plus 105 around this time last week. DRS, the Saints have the 9th overall pick with a rookie head coach and the offensive mind in Kellen Moore. They have not paid a quarterback in the last 2 off seasons. They've just held on to Derek Carr. Logistically, it makes a lot of sense for Shedeur to find his way to the Big Easy. Is that what you would bet right now?
Yeah, probably. It really fits in there. Also, I think Shedeur Sanders is a great landing spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And there's no surprise that they're 1-2 listed in that odds market. But understand this too. Like, we're reading the tea leaves here, and some organizations are very paranoid, and rightfully so. It wasn't long ago where you got sort of that draft room experience where John Gruden and Mike Mayock for the Raiders, they wouldn't let anybody outside of those 2 see the actual draft board and the players that they have listed. Now, understand this. Like, if you were a general manager of a football team and you're coming up in the top 5 and you know who you like, you probably have, 30 to 40 to 50 people looking at that board, understanding that you may have some bad apples in the room, sharing information, leaking information, and blowing it up. So I don't mind when I see, like, why would a general manager not actually show his scouts the draft board that he wants? Because you are absolutely in fear of your life saying, I like this player. Nobody's talking about it. And 24 hours before the draft, hey, just got word that the Giants are in love with Shedeur Sanders at 3. Like, how did they get that? I didn't share that with anybody but my 30 scouts at this point here. So I do think that's interesting. But again, for me with Shedeur Sanders, if he goes to New Orleans, I think it works. If he goes to Pittsburgh, I think it works. He's a talented quarterback, and you don't win football games unless you have a young, talented quarterback in your building and giving him a chance there. So it does make some sense for those first 2 teams on that list.
And again, the dramatic movement here. The Steelers' price opened at 17-1. I bet it at 9-1 now 3 weekends ago. The Steelers have the second best price to get Shedeur. They draft 21st overall, but maybe some trades can happen. Back to the NBA playoffs. The coach next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Opening weekend of the NBA playoffs. We get you the reactions that you need from the coaching perspective, the scouting report around game ones, all throughout the association with our coach, James Young, JY, live right here on this Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. JY, as always, we appreciate the time. Hope you had a lovely weekend enjoying the opening round starts around the NBA playoffs.
You know, it was a good start to the playoffs. I mean, thank God we got a little bit of a game the last game, because yesterday's game, not that pretty.
No, they certainly were not. In fact, every game decided by double digits at their close, including JY in Houston. It's what we're going to do here on this Monday, is what we did on Friday. Instead of previewing game ones and looking at where they stand for the series, we recap the opening games of these opening round sets and what it means for the series the rest of the way. So it's been the story as we know it, as Donnie has expressed it. The 2 seed in the Houston Rockets having home floor advantage, and yet not the series favorites against the team with the proven playoff pedigree, that being the Golden State Warriors. Could Houston stand up and make good on that seat number next to their name? In game number 1, JY, not exactly the case. The Warriors win by double digits, 95-85, outright as an ever so slight road underdog in H-Town to take game number 1, behind 31 from Steph and 25 for Jimmy Butler. What was the difference last night for Golden State winning the opening game of this series?
Well, their guards showed up and Houston's did not. I mean, it's as simple as that. And, you know, when you got to this series, and a lot of these series, the prices are baked into experience versus not experience. Like, we'll talk about that with Knicks in Detroit in a little bit. But, you know, if you are Ime Udoka, you got to get better play out of your guards. Van Vliet, Jalen Green were an absolute abomination last night. I mean, the fact that those two were combined 7 for 34, 2 out of 17 from 3. That's not going to win you a lot of games in the playoffs. Alperen Şengün, who I said had to be a difference maker, can't say enough about him. 26, 9, 3 steals, maybe too many turnovers with the 5, of course. But the play of the guards of Jimmy Butler, of Steph Curry, and Brandon Podziemski, giving him a sneaky 17 points, best plus minus in the game at a plus 17. You got to get better guard play if you're Houston. Otherwise, this is going to be 0-2, And this series that I thought was going to go 7 may not go past 5.
Yeah, we look at the pricing now from the FanDuel Sportsbook on this one. The Golden State Warriors a minus 370 price here. Take a look at the Rockets at a plus 295 price. Then you see some of the series odds here moving forward. I'm disappointed in what I saw from the Rockets, Coach, because let's just say if they would have lost 120 to 115, all right, just didn't have it there. Let's clamp down on defense. Let's play. They were so discombobulated on offense, and it just feels like, yes, it was the Warriors' veteran leadership that led them all the way through. What has to change? And maybe it's not so simple as, yes, getting better guard play. Is it tempo? Is it strategy? Is it pushing the pace? We're a younger team. Let's outrun this team. What needs to change in game number 2 for us to believe that the Houston Rockets can win this series?
If you're Ime Udoka, I may be going with a take that may shock a lot of people. Guys, for 3 of the 4 quarters, they were even. I mean, if you look at the first, second, fourth, they were even. You just can't let games get away from you at any point in the playoffs. And I think they're going to learn that you got to bring it for 48 minutes. Because when a team like Golden State smells blood, they go after it. You can't allow a team, after winning in the first quarter, to shoot 10 of 16 from the floor, 4 out of 7 from 3, and you shoot 1 out of 6 from 3. You have to do a better job of securing and getting stops, not letting Steph Curry go nuclear in the second quarter. That's the model that you have to say to your team. And when you look at film, guys, you may take 1 or 2 approaches. You may show them, hey, this is all the stuff we did right for 3 quarters, or I've done this before. You put the tape on, you let them watch the whole second quarter, and you don't say a word. If that doesn't get you motivated for a game 2, I don't know what will.
The Warriors did lead by as many as 20 points in the third quarter. Houston rallied to cut it to a single possession game with about 6 minutes left. But ultimately, Golden State does pull away. JY, you were live on SportsGrid on Saturday night for the nightcap in L.A. between the Lakers and the Timberwolves. Minnesota steals game number 1 on the road, winning outright as a 4.5-point dog against the Lakers, 117-95. Not just a game 1 win on the road, but by 22 points. How stunned were you by what you saw on Saturday in L.A.?
That wasn't stealing. That was robbery. That was whatever kind of attack you think is the worst it could be. It was worse than that because they took all their damn lunch money on Saturday night. It was a good start for the Lakers because Luka got going early. And I had said this with Kevin before the game. I was waiting to see the Rudy Gobert factor. And it was interesting because they weren't playing well. Rudy got into foul trouble. Naz Reid came in, and he blew the whole game up by himself with his ability to shut the floor and go from 3. And then obviously Ant was, let's be honest, Ant was not good. I mean, he was forcing shots. He wasn't doing things that we need to. But if you look at if you look at obviously Minnesota, they were able to get other guys, right? Jaden McDaniels with a huge performance. Randall not having to be the guy can kind of relax a little bit. But if you're JJ Redick, you're looking at, honestly, I'm not counting Jackson Hayes because he's basically the Bill Cartwright of the LA Lakers. I'm looking at Hachimura, I'm looking at Reeves, and LeBron, Mr. 0-0-0 in the first quarter. I'm looking at you. The 3 of you must be markedly better in a game number 2 at home. And here's the thing, like I said, Minnesota won by 22. And I don't think Ant was good at all, except for that little stretch in the third quarter with a couple of threes and some assists early. He may come out really hot. And that, to me, could be the most concerning part to the Lakers.
Yeah, it makes some sense, too, because you look at, we'll get to the OKC series where it's like, okay, hey, you know what? SGA didn't play all that well. You won by 50 points. Now, from a Lakers perspective, you can understand the slow start from LeBron James because Luka was so good in the first quarter. They had the lead. You just figured that LeBron would sort of catch up, and he did, but it was really out of whack. What has to change for the Lakers as opposed to just Luka and LeBron doing better? And also, Coach, now that we see the betting prices here, the Timberwolves are the favorite at minus 138. Is game number 2 a must-win for the Lakers? And who do we need to see stepping up in the process?
You have to start with LeBron James. And I think he was too passive early, and then he couldn't get going, right? When he got going, it was a 25, 30-point game. He started getting going, guys, late in the third quarter. The game was already decided. So to me, you got to get him involved early, maybe put the ball in his hands a little bit. Even when Luke is on the floor, maybe go through him as almost the point forward and set up Austin Reeves. you have to get good defense and better perimeter defense, obviously the way that Minnesota was able to shoot the ball from three. This is must win. And if you're the Lakers, like, I think the Lakers may win this by 8 to 10 points. They have to. They have to. Because if they win it close, I think Minnesota's going to go home saying, we got the split, we lost a close game, now we go on a run. If you get blown out in Minnesota after winning game one, maybe that puts a little bit more pressure on you into a game three. It is must win for Lakers. And it's must win and must win impressively, in my opinion.
The Lakers now a series underdog and yet a 5.5-point favorite for game number 2 tomorrow night. JY, we expected the series between the Nuggets and the Clippers to be tightly contested. Overtime in the opening game, and the Nuggets win by 2 on their home floor. What does game number 1 mean for the rest of the series?
You got to hope, if you're the Clippers, that game 1 did not blow the entire series. So that means game 2 is pivotal. Better play by down the stretch, cut down the turnovers. You know, Nikola Jokic can't let guys like Aaron Gordon give you big games. And listen, at the end of the day, I'll live with Russ shooting that three, but you got to contest it a little bit better than that.
The Clippers closed entering game 1 as a slight series favorite, now an underdog once again. Plenty more around the playoffs next.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're talking about going into next year, your fourth coach in 4 years. And if you think about it, they were 2-0 NBA Finals, and literally the whole organization just fell off.
I don't really understand what the plan is, right? Like, okay, you fire Budenholzer. What is the plan? Who do you think you're bringing in? What do you think is going to change? We all know the sort of dire financial situation they find themselves in as far as money spent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, rapid fire around the NBA playoffs as we still have 5 series to get to ahead of 2 game 2s tonight in Denver and, of course, inside the world's most famous arena. JY, to round out our game 1s in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 1 seed out west against the 8 seed, the Memphis Grizzlies, did what we expected the 1 seed to do. They won by 51 against Memphis, the largest margin of victory for a game 1 in the history of the NBA playoffs. So, JY, a 51-point win in game number 1. Is this going to be a sweep in favor of the Thunder in this opening round set?
Yeah, simply put, it's going to be a sweep. If you are Memphis, you can't shoot 34% from the floor, 18% from three, get out-rebounded by 13, and have 22 turnovers, and think you're going to be competitive at all. I don't think we need to spend any more time in it. Series over, drive home safely. Who's getting traded in Memphis in the offseason?
I love to see OKC absolutely hammer in game number 1 in the playoffs to sort of set that stage for, yeah, we're here, we're serious, and we're getting to the NBA Finals, and we're going to win this thing. A 50-point win. We'll see where we go in game number 2. But let's head over to the Garden, the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. Watching that game all the way through, look at the Pistons. Could it be competitive in the series? Could steal game number 1 heading into the fourth quarter. Then the fourth quarter happened. 40-21 final in the fourth quarter. The Knicks win this game going away by double digits. And, Coach, before we get to who can win the series, tell me about the devastating effect for the Pistons saying, we had this game and we let it slip away.
You had it slip away, and it was campaign on ice. And he served it cold in the fourth quarter. Out of all people, what he did in that game. To come out at the beginning of the fourth quarter and get a 5-second call is something I don't think I've ever seen in the NBA. And then you turn it around with a turnover. And then it just kept unraveling. It was 98-90, and then the critical play happened while we were on air with Kevin. J.B. Bickerstaff took Kate Cunningham out up by 5. And I'm like, that's dumb. Like, just burn a timeout and get their legs back. Well, he tried to buy 2 minutes. By the time he burned the timeout, the Knicks had the lead. The Garden was rocking. And at that point, as soon as the crowd got into it, Donnie, it became too much for Detroit. You saw them melt under pressure. First time in a big spot. This is a huge game tonight. Detroit could be saying, hey, we outplayed them for 3 quarters. The Knicks could be, we were terrible for 3 quarters, and we blew you out in the end.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, JY, and we'll talk about that. Is there a silver lining for the Pistons to have an 8-point fourth quarter lead inside MSG, or is it just devastation seeing it all evaporate with a 21-zip run? The Knicks now a minus 750 favorite to win this series outright. We'll look at game number 2 tonight inside the Garden in just a little bit. Game number 1 in Indianapolis on Saturday afternoon. The Pacers and the Bucks, 4-5 matchup out east. In all Indiana, 24-point lead at the break. They win game 1 by 19, 117-98. JY, game number 1 and really the rest of the series. Is it just a story for Milwaukee that without the help of Dame, Giannis can only do so much and it's only a matter of time?
It basically is. I mean, Giannis had 36 points. You know, the rest of the team had, 59? I mean, you're not going to beat an Indiana team that can get up and down and score at will. So, to me, can Kevin Porter Jr. shoot a little bit better from the floor? Yeah, 2 of 7. Bobby Portis is old. The guys like Gary Trent Jr.'s got to step up. Then they just don't have the offensive firepower to compete with Indiana, and they don't have the defensive acumen to stop them. So this is just a bad test. And if you are Milwaukee, you're hoping that you're competitive in game 2, and you pray to God that you get Dame for game 3, and maybe you can turn the series around. I don't think it matters. I think this is over, and probably over in 5 games or less.
Yeah, and Dame not coming back from a suspension where he's been working out quite a bit here. He's coming back from the blood clots. We'll see even that level of athletic ability that Dame can get quickly for the playoffs to sort of give him a shot in the arm. I'll tell you who needs a shot in the arm, Coach. That's the offense here for the Orlando Magic, scoring 86 points in a 103-86 loss to the Boston Celtics. Paolo Banchero, he was fine. 36 points. Franz Wagner, 23 points. Hey, that sounds like the Orlando Magic were competitive and won. My goodness, Coach. Scoring is an issue for the Magic, and it looks to be in the playoffs now versus the Celtics.
Those two are magical. The rest of the team was the Orlando Tragic. I mean, at the end of the day, you get, 31 points by the rest of the team? And it's crazy because if you thought about the game that they won to get the 7th seed, it was like Wagner and Banchero were bad, but then, Anthony Black stepped up. Cole Anthony stepped up. Wendell Carter Jr. stepped up. All these other guys stepped up. And now you get the reverse. Guys, you can't do that versus Boston. You all have to step up. Their defense was actually, not bad. I mean, maybe they shot a little bit too well from 3. They slowed the game down. They got at their pace. They just can't score. They have to be much better. I am still thinking, I know this is crazy. I still think it's a 5-game series. I still think Orlando steals one. Maybe it's game 2 because Boston has a propensity in the first 2 games to let off the rope a little bit, not shoot well, not focus. maybe Orlando could steal game number 2.
We saw that a ton last year for the Celtics, even in their dominant and impressive run to NBA championship number 18. Boston, a 12.5-point favorite for game number 2 on Wednesday. JY, the Cleveland Cavaliers, big fourth quarter, pulled away from the Miami Heat. 121-100, the victory last night. The Cavs cover as a 12.5-point home favorite. Much like the series between the C's and the Magic, the odds makers expecting this one between the Cavs and the Heat to be quick. How long do you think the series ends up going?
Oh, I'm hoping. I think Miami's going to get a game. I'm praying it's 2. But I tell you what, the quote, the great Martin Lawrence, Jerome's in the house. Ty Jerome, Lord have mercy, 6 of 7, and that's the problem with Cleveland. Watch your mouth. This team has so many guys that can hit you in different ways, but it was Ty Jerome's time, and I think that's the problem you face with Cleveland. Ben, is you got different guys that take over games at different points. Donovan Mitchell can do his thing early. Someone can do it late. They can flip-flop roles. It can be a bunch of about 8 different guys. What a performance, particularly in the fourth quarter by Cleveland.
28 points in only 26 minutes for Ty Jerome off the bench, a finalist for the NBA Sixth Man of the Year for a reason. So all 8 NBA playoff series, all 8 game ones now in the books. That means it's time to move on to game number 2. A doubleheader of that on this Monday with JY up next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
A doubleheader of Game 2s on this Monday night around the NBA playoffs. Our coach, James Young, JY, here to give you that scouting report and his breakdowns for each of our 2 games on this Monday. First, inside the Garden, it's the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. Then, in the nightcap at altitude, it's the Nuggets and the Clippers. And JY, the story for this Game 2 tonight inside MSG is very much the idea of resolve. What bounce back does Detroit have? And how do they feel about the disaster in the fourth quarter? Up by 8 early on in the fourth to see the Knicks go on that 21-0 run. How do the Knicks feel about it as well? Hey, we didn't play the greatest game from start to finish, but at our best, we can beat the best, especially in the moments that matter most. So, JY, 7-point spread in favor of the Knicks tonight now for game number 2 inside the Garden. What do you think we see in the response to game 1 from both of these sides?
Well, I think if you are Detroit, you have to find a way to get Cade Cunningham going. He just looked really passive, almost, I don't want to say scared of the moment, just kind of unsure of himself a little bit. You need to continue to get better play or good play from your veterans. The problem is one veteran I think is going to play well, one does not. The one I think is going to play well is going to be Malik Beasley. I think he's not scared of the moment. He's a tough veteran, not afraid to take the big shot, hit a bunch of threes early on. I think his points probably about 14.5, gone over 3 of the last 4 versus the Knicks. I don't trust, honestly, Tobias Harris to have another bounce back spot the way he did. For the Knicks, you didn't play well in the first 3 quarters. Jalen Brunson was pedestrian, and you didn't really take advantage of Cat. If you watch the matchup closely, folks, Cat was being guarded by Tobias Harris. They put Jalen Duren on Josh Hart. If I'm Tibbs, I go inside or get the ball to Cat at the high post where it's one drive, one dribble, get to the rim. Cat over 23.5 points, over 10 in the last 15 games, 3 to 5 versus Detroit. Just got to 23 last one. I think big performance out of Cat. Knicks get the win and the cover.
Knicks need the big win tonight, get that 2-0 series lead, get that comfort back, or is it a young Pistons team that takes a 1-1, advantage per se back to Detroit and say, you know what, home court advantage is now ours. But the big series for me, one of my favorite series that I've been watching to start, is that's the Clippers and the Nuggets. Overtime in game number 1, I thought the Clippers should have won that game. They didn't here. So talk to me about the Clippers and the Nuggets, and a slight favorite now for the Clippers at -1.5 in this game at a total of 218. What do the Clippers need to do to send this back to Los Angeles 1-1? Or is it the Denver Nuggets for you, escaping game number 1 and saying, you know what, might as well win game number 2 at home as well?
I thought, guys, this was going to be the typical zigzag series where you're just going to go bing, bing, bing. You're just going to bounce back and forth. Why? Because they're just so evenly matched, right? The stats kind of line up. It was a game that I think the Clippers let go, turnovers, big shot by Russ, big defensive plays in overtime. And they just kind of let the rope go. I think Kawhi is going to be far more aggressive for the entire game. And I like what I see out of the Clippers. I think the Clippers steal the game, and they go back 1-1. This is going 7. I don't think it's going to be 2-0. And I think the difference between the Clippers and Detroit is I think the Clippers blow that game, and they're a veteran team that can respond and come back. Detroit hasn't been in this spot before, so they blow it. Now, if it starts to get tight, they start to tighten up again. I like the Clippers on the money line to get the win and get this back to L.A. 1-1.
It's what we see in playoff series, and we see it represented in the odds. One game, one result, night over night, can completely flip what the odds makers expect of who is going to win that series and how long it might take. And, JY, we're seeing it here on full display for the Clippers and Nuggets series, the 4-5 split in the Western Conference. We expected to be highly competitive. Game number 1 went to OT, decided by just 2 points. And one thing that stood out, the Clippers flipped to a series outright favorite entering game 1, despite being the road underdog in that opening game. The Clippers down 0-1 and on the road, a road favorite now in game 2 against Denver, and yet the series underdog as the Nuggets are the favorites. This is what you try to compare and make sense of from the odds perspective as you go through each and every one of these playoff series. JY, as always, on this Monday, we appreciate the time greatly. Thank you for being here on the early line. We'll talk plenty more throughout the NBA playoffs. You want to hit a quick and early fadeaway before we take this to the break? Whoa!
I mean, okay. Can I run clock? Can I be Tibbs? Can I be Tibbs and just give the ball to Brunson and let him dribble it and clear it out? No, Tibbs, move the ball. I'm gonna give it back to Ben. I'm hitting it early tonight. Bang.
Well, that's going to go in, and then we'll inbound it there.
I'm seeing a call.
Too much time on the clock.
I don't even know. Hour 3.